all your social media presence that you'd regard as being professional. For example, LinkedIn, Twitter, Kaggle if you're on, or any other platform that you're kind of professional, Upwork and so on. It's good that you have the same photo all over the place, first of all, and second of all, I read this and it actually makes a lot more sense, and that you don't change it very often.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is powered by Z by HP, HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Andrada Olteanu. Andrada is currently a data scientist at Endava, a Kaggle Notebooks Grandmaster, a dev expert at Weights and Biases, and a data science global ambassador at Z by HP. She's doing a lot. She is a bachelor's in statistics and a master's in data science and analytics. She combines the artsy side of data with the technical side to create fun, educative, and insightful notebooks. In this episode, we learn all about Andrada's experience growing within the Kaggle platform. We also touch on what it means to be a Z by HP global ambassador. Finally, we finish up with some fun Romanian idioms that we both had a good laugh about. I had an incredible time speaking with Andrada, and I think you'll enjoy our conversation. Andrada, thank you so much for coming on the Ken's Nearest Neighbors podcast today. Obviously, we've had some interactions. We've been on panels together, and it was long past due for us to do this. So I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No problem at all. Well, I had to get you on. You have a really cool background, a Kaggle Grandmaster. You've worked on some interesting projects, and I've loved hearing you speak in the past. So this will be a nice, fun conversation, and I'm excited to be able to share some of your insights with the community here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you also for your contribution for this community. It's absolutely amazing. And we are glad to have you. Your 66 data challenge, data science challenge, and like all the fun projects you're doing, and your YouTube channel. I remember the first time I kind of encountered you, I think I already told you this, was a few years ago, back when I started doing data science, and I didn't know how to scrape. It was a scraping code video. I don't know if you remember doing something like that, but it was
one for like Twitter and yeah, it's possible.
Something like that, and I kind of coded it along with you because I had no idea how to scrape. It was the first time I heard the word scraping, and it was super, super fun. And then to realize we are ambassadors together, and you're also active within the data science community is absolutely amazing. Yeah, so thank you so much.
No, that means a lot to hear that. And yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and it's funny. I don't say this that often, but the creation of a lot of this stuff, it's a little bit of like a selfish endeavor, right? Like I want to learn new things, and the best way I learn is by teaching. And like the beauty of this system is that I can like selfishly get something. I can have conversations with really interesting and cool people like yourself, but other people can also really benefit from them. And to me, that's such like a beautiful thing, is I can get what I want. I can pursue the things that I'm passionate about, but there's this other like side benefit where other people get a tremendous amount, or hopefully get a tremendous amount of value out of it as well. And I like the idea that there are systems out there where we can be happy, we can optimize, we can even like frankly make some income from a lot of these things as well, and we can also create good value that's free, or majoritively free, which is such a cool thing in the world today. So I'd love to jump a little bit more into your background. I appreciate all of the compliments, but this is about you, Andrada. So the first thing I always like to ask people is, so how did you first get interested in data? When did it come on your radar? Was it something that happened like, oh, I saw this really cool project and I got excited and I knew it was for me? Or was it more of a slow progression?
So frankly, to be talking, it wasn't something I knew I would do. So when I finished high school, or my colleagues, I think 50% of them knew from the beginning of high school they wanted to be doctors. The other 40% wanted to be engineers, and there was another 10% that was already kind of knew what path they would take. And I was completely like in the sky. I didn't know whatever I want to do with my life. And I kind of crossed out all the universities. I got into statistics just by poor chance, I think. And then struggling to kind of find a job, because this was something I really wanted during my high school years, was to kind of get independent and make my own money and just trying to provide for myself. And this was extremely important to me back then, and it's still now. I got a job within data analytics. So I was a trainee in data analytics, and I started liking that, especially the part where you do data visualization and present. The business cases were also super, super interesting, just because it was a fun like activity, not getting too much into numbers, not being math related, but still being kind of very artsy and I would say kind of clever, or I don't know. It was super, super interesting, finding insights and so on. Yeah. And then I realized the next step would be data science. And it was like these two paths before me, either doing data analytics or doing data science. And I got a little bit acquainted with it. I decided to do a course and then pursue a master's. And then I kind of, this is me now. So it's no going back. But I really, really love how everything turned out. I really do think that some things are kind of, you know, when you have something in the back of your head, thinking, I kind of want to do something great, or I want to do something artsy, or you know kind of what you want to do, but you don't necessarily know what's the job. And I think in 2012, I don't know if data science was even a thing, this big thing as it is now. And I've never heard of data science. We had statistician kind of within job descriptions. That was the only, the closest you could get, or computer scientist. But my journey kind of carefully throughout years got me here.
That's awesome. Well, so something that really cracked me up is that you said you got into statistics by chance.
Yeah.
That was a funny one. The probability of you landing in statistics.
It was crossing out universities. So I had a huge list of all the universities within Bucharest, and I just crossed out everything, and I was left with 2 or 3 things. And a very good friend of mine within my class, he was going to statistics, and I was like, okay, let's do this. We shall see.
Well, it worked out. Randomness worked out in your favor a little bit there, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I'm interested in that concept of sort of knowing what you want, but not knowing how to call it or what it looks like in practice. I think that that's something a lot of people feel. I mean, I know I felt that before I started data science, before I started content creation, any of these things. I said, oh, okay, you know, something that always fascinated me was sports and understanding sports better. And I found over time that the best way for me to do that was with data and a lot of this information, but there was no field called like sports understanding, right? Yeah. And I also loved teaching and understanding that, but frankly, I was like, teachers don't make any money, at least in the States. And like, there
and
has to be
if you like kids and stuff like that. So yeah. It's kind of more, yeah.
Exactly. And so it's like, okay, well, how, you know, the way I found to do that is making the roles for myself, right? But, you know, how did you eventually like come to this realization that, okay, data science is that domain where I can do that? Or like where these things in the back of my head come into fruition? Or was it that, hey, within data, I can kind of shape my role a little bit to have exactly what I want? Was there, you know, how did that connection happen?
I think it's the second, and you kind of you touched right what I wanted to say, the fact that I don't think it was what I wanted, and then the role kind of came up, was the role, and within the role I kind of navigated and chose. And I think everybody does this. And this is absolutely amazing in this world nowadays, is that there are some jobs that were never before, like YouTuber, content creator. You can make money off Twitter, just by talking. I don't know what's the maximum, 150, 100 characters or something like that within a tweet, and you can do that. Or it's amazing. It's amazing. And the fact that you could take something like data science, which is so broad, like you can, as you said, you can have teaching in there, you can have maths, you can have artistic stuff, you can have coding. It's so many things that you can choose what to shine a light more or less, to make your own concoction of what you want to do. So I think in my case, and maybe many other people's case, is I kind of added my own, let's say, personality into this role. Mm-hmm.
It's cool that there are sort of two sides to that. So you can add your own personality to the role and study and learn things that you're fascinated with, right? And that makes it so that the work is more interesting for you. But on the other side of that, if you're looking at it from a company perspective, if someone specializes in something and they get really good at this one thing, that's also really valuable and beneficial to you, as well as like the organization. And so I think it's nice that the incentives are really aligned for data scientists to say, hey, like I get in a more generalist role. I'm interested in pursuing this path because it's interesting to me. It appeals to whatever it is. And then the company, hopefully they're willing to like let you have some freedom because it means you're going to be doing better work. I think there's sort of a magical balance there, and not all companies are like that. I'm a realist, but a lot of companies do let you have some freedom. I mean, I have a friend over at one of the FANG companies, and she's within the company gone through like 2 or 3 different roles already. And I think that that's, because she's like, hey, I want to work on this, I want to work on XYZ project, and they let her do those things. And to me, that's really cool, right? I mean, the companies, obviously, any of the FANG companies are big enough where, what do they care? Their teams are massive and jumping around. But, I would encourage that if any like employers are listening to this, I think that there's tremendous power in that flexibility, and it's just better off for everyone, right?
Endava, which is the company I'm working at the moment, is exactly the same, in a sense of, and this is why I kind of loved that I got the opportunity to work there, just because they have so many projects and they work with multiple clients. They can come from banking, automobile, food industries, and so on. So they can be so many industries, but there can also be so many projects. You can work on NLP, you can work on object detection, you can work on video data, and so on. And as a data scientist, because it's so broad, and I had, like I said, I had a friend, she was obsessed with computer vision. She loved computer vision, but when she heard NLP, she was like, oh no. She hated that area. And I was like, but it's still data science. Like, no, images, please. Like, images. So the fact that Endava and any other company can have the ability to let their data scientists kind of move around and gain experience, really, from one project to another, area to another, is amazing.
I love that. So I'd love to hear more also about sort of your story of landing that job. And was that the first job that you had out of your master's program? What was that experience like? I think that that's always very interesting for a lot of people. And is Endava a national company? Is a local company? What is the landscape look like?
It's an international company. It's based in UK. It started in UK, but now it has offices all around the world. It's kind of expanding. I think I kind of owe all my little and bigger jobs to Kaggle. And this is why I usually repeat myself all over again. Just please, whatever you do, if you're a data scientist, take advantage of this platform and do Kaggle. And in any really career, if you're a designer, just go over to these platforms, open sharing platforms, and share your work and receive like attention and give attention and learn from other creators and so on. Or there are so many platforms for so many jobs, and Kaggle for data science or professions, let's say, is not really a job, it's a profession. Kaggle is absolutely amazing. And I started Kaggle by mistake, really. The course I followed within data science, at the end, they were like, oh, you maybe want to try Kaggle. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. I kind of did all their courses. I found out what a notebook is, kernel back then. And I just started working on a project just because I wanted to learn more. And then stuff started happening. I found out about medals by mistake also, because so I started my master's and the first module was crazy and I was just getting adjusted. So I haven't entered on Kaggle in like 3 weeks, let's say. And I had a notebook on Brazil fires, which wasn't even that good actually. Like in my head, I was just having fun with Seaborn. I was like, "Ooh, what's this? Okay, let's learn Seaborn." And I went back to Kaggle once that module was over, and I had the gold medal. I was like, "What is this?" And then I realized people actually upvoted that. Why? Where do these people? How did they find this? I think the data set became popular. And then kind of the notebook started to go up. I think this was the case. But then I realized I can actually interact with people, and I found out there is a community on Kaggle. And then I got into competitions and so on. So my activity and kind of going up and starting to kind of navigate and interact with the platform and understanding what I can do and what I can't do, or what I shouldn't do, got me more up into the notebooks field. And then Gabi Preda kind of found me. I was a fangirling over. I haven't texted him, although he is also Romanian. I was like standing in the back. He's 3 times grandmaster now. I can't even look at him, but I'm just gonna follow him and learn from him here in the back. And then he kind of found out one of my notebooks. And when I finished my master's, I contacted him and asked him if he had a position open. And he had, and I had a few interviews, talks with HR. I didn't kind of get right into it. I really didn't receive any special attention, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't think if Kaggle wasn't on my CV or resume, I think you call it, I'm not very sure I would have found out even about Endava. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, something that I don't think people realize is how powerful algorithms are. So you think about it on Kaggle, right? And maybe it's not a machine learning algorithm they use, it's a popularity vote, whatever it might be. But there's momentum that you get from platforms sharing your work rather than you just sharing it, right? So if I make a website and I don't optimize it and I put it out on the internet, probably no one's going to watch it. But if I make a tweet or I put something on Instagram, I put something on YouTube, I put something on Kaggle, if it's good content, there's incentive for the platform to share it and perpetuate it beyond just me, right? Like, I make a YouTube video, and without having to do anything, the platform shares it to thousands of people, right? To me, that's fascinating. And that's a great way to create scale in your work. Kaggle works the same. If you produce interesting stuff, you're working on a interesting data set, and you have a halfway decent analysis, the odds are someone's going to look at it, right? And someone's going to find it. And that discoverability, to me, is like a huge, important part of the job search. So rather than going out and doing all the hard work of finding things, creating systems where you're findable, or where things are coming to you, is something that I put a huge premium on. Or even not like being the first thing that comes up, but being searchable is really important. I mean, I don't know a single employer who doesn't, like, when I was interviewing candidates, I would Google every single one. It's like a very easy thing to do. You get a feel for what they're about. You see any interesting news headlines, whatever it might be. And I love the Kaggle platform. I think that that's such like an awesome way to start. What were some of the sort of challenges with Kaggle that you faced starting out? Obviously, even now, I mean, I have a couple of Kaggle notebooks out there, but it's still intimidating for me to enter competitions. It's still intimidating for me to commit that much time to it. You have any tips or tricks?
So having, like, interacting with Kaggle and having let's say a presence on there, it's extremely important, not only because you're learning, and if you really want to learn more, there's the best place you can do that, but also because you kind of have official kind of portfolio. Because I can, for example, say on my resume that I know how to use PyTorch, for example. But if somebody goes on the Kaggle platform, searches my profile, and then finds even 1, 2, 3, 5 notebooks that use PyTorch, they kind of realize my level. They first see, oh, she knows a little bit of PyTorch, first of all. Second of all, oh, she has a certain level. Maybe she's beginner, she's intermediate, but you can't say all this information within a resume. So you have a feel of that person, and also the commitment and so on. So it's a great bonus. Some things that I kind of did wrong when I started Kaggle. So the first thing was I didn't even, the first year, I think, or half of the first year, I was committing blank. And why did I do that? First, I didn't even know what a commit was. I haven't worked with Git yet. And I was like super confused. For me, committing was saving and sharing. And that was it. And I saw some other people. So this was early beginning for me. I saw some other people kind of committing without changing their notebooks. And they are kind of going up above me. And I was like, but why is this working? Why? I think the Kaggle algorithm kind of sees that you are doing changes. I don't know if this is still a thing on Kaggle. I don't know. I'm not very sure. But back then, if you would commit a notebook daily, the algorithm kind of saw you had activity on them, and they would keep your notebook up more, let's say, because they were like, oh, she's actually working, whereas this other person, they worked on this notebook 10 days ago. That's a big no-no. It's very weird, and it's extremely, let's say, unproductive. And when I realized this isn't really a very good thing to do, I kind of stopped. So if you see other people, because it's kind of a feeling when you see 100 people next to you doing something, you're kind of incentivized to, okay, I need to join the group. But usually that's not the case. You want to do the opposite of what the kind of average bigger group is doing, or something like that. The second thing I had to realize is not a very big is not a bonus, was kind of commenting. This was also early days, but I saw lots of people kind of saying congratulations, and I was like, oh, I need to be productive. and I need to be kind of not super like supportive. So I would comment as well. And then I realized that's not good either. Actually, on Kaggle, I think there's a post with a lot of tricks that you would think somebody entering on the Kaggle platform knows, but because Kaggle is such a big platform and it's super complex, in my opinion, especially for somebody with like very fresh eyes, it's very good to look over. I can't remember. Maybe I'm gonna send it to you to link it.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And another thing that I think I did once, but then I kind of realized it's not okay because I saw others do, is extremely important. Just reference anything that you use, especially if you're using another notebook on Kaggle. It's extremely important because you're kind of transparent that you didn't invent the wheel. Other people helped you, and it's healthy to kind of show that you are also learning for other people. Nobody's God on Kaggle. Everybody's learning from other people. I feel like it's always a kind of, if you watch, you read one of my notebooks and there is a piece of code there from somewhere, and that somewhere is kind of connected to maybe other two sources, and then it becomes a tree of kind of knowledge. So it's extremely important to reference. Yeah, and upvote if you fork a notebook. This would be another very, I sometimes forget to upvote, and I realize and I go back and upvote it. It's extremely annoying.
Yeah. Well, you know, the accreditation, I think, is something that is super overlooked. And I've thought about this from a practitioner perspective, or someone who has a lot of public facing work on the internet. I really see zero benefits of not sharing someone's work, right? If someone, for example, a couple people made reaction videos to my videos, right? Or they talk on the same concept, and you know, there's 20 videos out there that's like how I'd learn XYZ if I started over again. If someone ever references me, I just share the video to my audience, which is probably bigger than theirs, right? It's a no-brainer for me. It's like, well, you know, there's an authority aspect where someone is you know, viewing my content or viewing whatever I've published that makes me frankly look good, because they're like, oh, this is interesting enough that I'm going to use it or respond to it or whatever it is, right? And there's also the aspect of just like the goodwill that it creates. You're linking yourself to someone who's probably a lot more accomplished than you are, whatever it is. And so to me, I've never understood why in this space you would try to claim someone else's work as your own, because it's so easy to figure out when something's not yours, because people will call you out on the internet. You know, like what's the point? It takes 5 extra seconds. You already have the other page open in your monitor. Just like copy and paste the link at least, right? Like
copy and paste the link. Yeah. And it adds I just remembered the first time I properly referenced somebody was when I learned how to do sentiment analysis on Rick and Morty's tweets. So it's Rick and Morty. I don't know if it's since the series
TV show,
but yeah. And I kind of found the not the tweets, script. Sorry, I kind of found the scripts from some of the seasons, and I kind of did sentiment analysis, and I referenced Xavier something. Xavier. I remember Xavier. It was from Spain or Portugal. He did this amazing notebook for I think it was Lord of the Rings, and I basically copied the entire notebook, and then I just added my own feel, some more stuff, but it was very, very, very similar to what he has already done, but on other data set. But this was my purpose. I was astonished by what he did. I was like, I want to learn this. I would be very grateful, and I'm super grateful that he shared everything. He already did all the research. I don't have to do it. So I'm gonna start learning. So I kind of did a code to code, line by line. I didn't copy anything. I was coding along with his notebook. And when I was ready to share it, I already had Twitter back then. And I found him on Twitter, and I tagged him. And I said, here is a notebook I am super proud about. I loved working on it. All the praises should go to Xavier, because if it wouldn't have been his notebook, this wouldn't have happened. And I remember I didn't expect this. He reshared, commented, and also DM'd me within Twitter, and he said, oh my God, you made my day. I'm so grateful that I could help you, because he was excited as well, right? Here is this girl that she's a noob, she doesn't know anything, and now she knows some stuff, and it's because of me. Like, why would he not be happy? And I kind of then linked a little bit of friendship, because whenever I would need his advice or a problem, I would just message him a very quick question, and he would answer. It was absolutely amazing. And if I wouldn't have referenced him, I wouldn't have had this kind of interaction. Yeah.
There's so many really powerful things in what you just said there. So the first, I think, is important for people to realize about just projects in general. Like a lot of projects are taking something that exists, crediting the person who created it, and taking it a step further, right? You know, let's say I did an analysis on the Titanic data set, right? I have a full tutorial on that on my channel. Could probably be better. I've learned some stuff since then, but at the same time, if someone takes that, you know, they take everything that I did and they add to that analysis. Maybe they try some different models. Maybe they do what, you know, maybe they create some other visualizations. Maybe they expand on it. Like, that is a perfectly good project that you can share, in as long as you're crediting the source material. Same thing with just applying an analysis that you've seen to other data. Like I did this analysis of, you know, I probably shouldn't say this as publicly, but I scraped a bunch of Glassdoor data on data science jobs, right? And then I analyzed that information to see, okay, what are people looking for? What are the skills? What a lot of these things. If someone did something similar, but they used maybe not data science jobs, right? Or they looked at consulting jobs, or they didn't use Glassdoor, they used another website, but essentially all the methodology would be very similar. That's a perfectly good project in its own right. And again, if you're like crediting the author, like, it doesn't have to be this completely unique original thing. You can either change the data that you're using, or you can add to the analysis and, you know, use different models, whatever it might be. And that's what makes it unique. So many people get so overwhelmed, they just don't realize they can start with a foundation and expand into it. And then, you know, if you do credit someone, and you can create these great friendships that perpetuate even further. So
I would also like to add to that. So you said people are like scared, or and I think I had a talk at some point, and Parul Pandey was also there, and she said something that's quite, I didn't really empathize with it, but I kind of saw that this was actually, I didn't realize this was a problem. So what she said was that she would receive very frequently, I think I'm not butchering what she said, I hope. She said she would receive many messages from girls that would kind of give her their notebook before sharing it. And they would do that just because they were very, very scared or under pressure, being like, oh my God, I'm posting this notebook. What will everybody think? Maybe I did a mistake, and so on. So they were kind of trying to get an approval from Peru, saying, okay, you're fine. But she actually encouraged them to just post it, because nobody is going to be mean with you if there's their problem, but I haven't seen really on Kaggle bullies. Like, I really actually now I'm thinking no bullies there. But is this kind of pressure that you need to be very unique and outstanding and revolutionary even, that they feel maybe like this is not original work. I just did very little to add to this. And why would I deserve to post it? Which is not the case. You are first doing these notebooks for your learning. So it doesn't matter even if you didn't change anything. So maybe I just copied your notebook from line 0 to line 100, like line by line. I didn't change anything. Yeah, but I kind of realized what everything is doing, and I learned maybe a new technique and so on. You don't really have to change anything. You are learning or encoding along with other person. And then if you want to take a step further, you can kind of add, like you said, your spark to it. But you just shouldn't be afraid. And I see why you could be, but you shouldn't really. It's a very nice platform. And it's an opportunity for other people to kind of jump in and say, hey, maybe you did something wrong here. And then you can say yes or no, or why did you take that approach, and so on. It's a conversation.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is brought to you by Z by HP. HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Z is specifically made for high performance data science solutions, and I personally use the ZBook Studio and the Z4 workstation. I really love that the Z line can come standard with Linux, and they also can be configured with the data science software stack. With the software stack, you can get right into the work of doing data science on day one without the overhead of having to completely reconfigure your new machine. Now back to our show.
I love the idea of feedback. That's how we get better, right? And to have a place where you can get structured feedback, where someone's like, hey, why did you do it this way? I get that a lot, and I actually have to think about it, right? Some of the analysis I haven't done, it's like 2 years ago that I did it, right? And I'm like, let me relook into the code. And then other times, it's just nice to have something out there. I mean, you're searchable or whatever it might be. Something that I've realized is the more that you post on a platform, the less you worry about those types of things, right? So your body of work should speak more than an individual thing that you've done, right? You've done quite a few Kaggle notebooks so far. Like, each individual one probably means a little bit less to you in terms of like your intimidation about sharing it, or because it's been out there for a while, right? And so to me, that's something I think is really powerful. So a couple days ago, someone reached out to me. I put a video out, and apparently there's like a typo in one of the like screens in my video, right? And they reach out, and I'm grateful. I like when people do this, and they said, like, I wanted to let you know before shit hits the fan. I don't want you to get criticized for this. And I'm like, look, no one is. If I have a typo in my video, no one's gonna say anything, right? Like, just let it ride. It's fine. If people notice it, great. But it's a small thing. Who cares? Right. I mean, I didn't phrase it like that. I actually am very grateful when people, because if it was a big thing, I like use terminology wrong or something like that, that'd be worthy of taking down. But there are certain things that you're okay with once they're out there, and once you started sharing with, like, what people are going to criticize you for, right? If I did math wrong on a video, that would be something people would roast me for, and not like 1 + 1 = 3 math. Like, if I described a concept wrong, if I like said, oh, like linear regression, like multicollinearity doesn't matter or something like that, I would get roasted, right? Because that's like a professional domain. But like, those are things that you learn over time where the threshold is, and the only way you learn is by putting stuff out there and experimenting with it, and it should be fun, right? You're like engaging with a new community, and you don't have to like talk with them if you're an introvert. They're just people behind computers on the internet. It's just it's like Twitter, right? It's fun. You engage, you share, and there's a chance to go viral.
It depends which side of Twitter you are.
Kaggle's a lot more friendly than Twitter, I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, there is some power in Kaggle, and I also think on LinkedIn is there isn't as much anonymity on those platforms, right?
Oh, what I wanted to actually share, like from good practices, I don't know if it's only Kaggle, but all the social media, I don't know if people know this, maybe they know this. It's all your social media presence that you would regard as being professional. For example, LinkedIn, Twitter, Kaggle if you're on, or any other platform that you're kind of professional, Upwork and so on. It's good that you have the same photo all over the place, first of all, and second of all, I read this and it actually makes a lot more sense, and that you don't change it very often, because people don't usually like read your name. They actually look at the
I'm checking.
you're checking.
I have the same
They
photo.
don't they don't usually read your name, they look at the photo. And I realized, because I was doing something like that as well, and at some point Boyan Tungus, am I pronouncing correctly? Hopefully.
Your guess is better than mine, so
Yeah. He changed his photo for a day, and I was like, who's this guy? He's okay. I don't want to unfollow this guy, no. But he was like, oh, so weird. And then he kind of changed back and tweeted about this, reading that it's good to leave your photo alone, because, or if you change it, just don't change it once a week. Try to change it once a year, maybe 2 years, and so on, because people kind of look at, for example, tomorrow, if I take your headshot from Twitter and I replace it with mine, I might get followers, just because people won't read my name. They're gonna, Ken. Oh, I don't have him on follow. Yeah. So please don't do that. Like, this is okay. But very
no
important.
Ken impersonator. On YouTube, there's a problem with bot impersonators, because you can like essentially make very similar names. And so it hasn't happened to me too much, but a couple of my friends, there are bots that copy their name and will comment like crypto scams in the comments, which is no way. I think YouTube's cracked down on it a little bit, which is a good thing, but it was a problem for a while. So, kind of continuing down the Kaggle thread. So you're a grandmaster in notebooks, correct? How did that happen? Like, what is the progress for that?
So as I said at the beginning, it was just making notebooks and kind of understanding some techniques, data. Even if it was just something interesting, I would do it. Then I kind of realized, oh, there's medals. And I memorized, I think, how many times I looked into the that scheme from Kaggle, when you see for notebooks, competitions, data sets, and so on, how to get to different levels all the way to Grandmaster. And I was like, oh, okay, so I have to get to Master. I think it was 10 silver medals. And so at the beginning, as I said, it wasn't about medals. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I can become a master. This sounds interesting. At the beginning, when I entered the platform, I was like, I don't have a chance. Like, I'm a novice. I have 3 like circles. It's like, how do these people do this? But I think we are in an era where we are so used to making things very, very fast. We don't climb the stairs. We have an elevator. We have cars. We don't walk, and so on. We have instant messaging. We don't have to kind of write letters and so on. And I was like, oh, I have to do so much work. And it's true. You have to do a bit of work in order to get to Grandmaster level. But I was like, oh, I don't have any chance, because I was like very, very, very used to this very quick thing. But then when I realized that's not impossible, I kind of tried to expand my work. And every notebook, I tried to make it extremely different from the other one, which actually required me to learn something new, or at least very new or at least new within each notebook. Whether it was, I had one notebook which was mastering ggplot and all the techniques you can do in ggplot, which is R. I kind of dabbled between R and Python. It was sentiment analysis, which was another thing. It was computer vision, my first take into computer vision with melanoma competition, which is, again, extremely new. It was the bird call competition, which was audio files. It was like, oh, okay, audio files. This is so interesting. It was completely new. Fraud detection. So I tried to kind of pinpoint all these bits, trying to get these notebooks. Now, some of them weren't that great, meaning that although I was super, super excited about them, I didn't get the attention that I thought I would. And other notebooks just skyrocketed. I think the thing that people should really pay attention to, as I said, besides the fact that you want to do a quality work, so this is a must. You want to do a quality work and you want to kind of put your effort into it. But afterwards, you want to take advantage of the community and sharing. And I shared on Twitter. I had 50 followers for 4 months, I think. And I was sharing with my 50 followers. Some of them, they weren't even within data science industry. I was like, well, I hope you're excited as I am about my new notebook and so on. I didn't know it was doing anything. But people are going to kind of find you and see that you are into data science and kind of you are starting to build a community. You are going to start to build a community. So take advantage of this, do a very, very good job of creating the notebook. And I think that would be the recipe, or at least my recipe, on how I became a Grandmaster.
That's awesome. I think that there's a lot of connection between the different social platforms. I mean, I kind of have, if I need to start actually doing more notebooks, because if I make a video on it, I have a shortcut cheating path to getting medals with my audience. You know, if I make a video on it, there's, you know, people are more likely to go to it and drive traffic, and there's some sort of optimization equation associated with that. But I think for anyone, right, it's about just dedicated work, doing things that are interesting. And also, I think that there's power in finding sort of a niche, right? I mean, a lot of the work that I do that people would find interesting is going to be more for beginners, right? If I'm creating content on Kaggle where there's a companion video that goes along with it, frankly, there aren't that many people that do that, especially at like the beginner phase. So I'm doing something that's fundamentally different than other people are doing. And that's going to be something that garners upvotes, right? Like if it's, hey, this person went through, not only did they make the kernel of the notebook, they also made this companion video. You know, there's incentive to make something like that rise to the top. In your case, I know from looking at a lot of your notebooks, you really enjoy the visualization part, right? If I open a notebook of yours, I can expect like, oh, there's going to be something like visually appealing that I haven't seen before. I remember going through, I think you did a sentiment analysis or something of the sort on Elon Musk tweets and if they impacted the price of Bitcoin, right? Or Dogecoin. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Both.
But to me, I got such a chuckle out of that notebook. I really enjoyed it. You've mentioned it a couple times, like the art associated with data science. Can you talk me through how that kind of shows in your work and what that means to you in the Kaggle sphere?
So the art came from two parts, I think. So it was the first part, just my love of painting and taking pictures and just seeing beautiful things. I just love that in particular. So that designy part of me kind of made its way through data science. But then the second part was the fact that I was reading notebooks And although they were extremely insightful, and I learned a lot from them, I still struggle with this to this day. I couldn't understand what they were doing just by reading. And I feel like as a technical person, it's extremely important for you to be able to read somebody else's code. Now, I can argue that I am very little experienced, and this is why I can't really read the code. But this made me kind of try to explain all the little bits that I wasn't actually able to understand. So this part is also, in my opinion, extremely important, and I'm trying to get to this in every notebook, trying to comment everything, trying to explain everything. If it's a big chunk of code, I might be doing a schema, just because next day when I go back and I look at 50 lines of code in a function, I can't remember what I did. But the schema, I was like, oh, this. Oh, okay, so I already know. So it is for me, firstly, and then if it helps somebody else, it's absolutely amazing. So commenting, clean code, clean variables, just understanding that it's somebody else is going to read whatever you wrote, maybe, and will try to follow. And if it's a beginner, it's going to be very annoying. Now I understand if it's an advanced person, they are going to get very bored of all the explanations and I also like to print whenever I do a function. If it's a little bit complicated, I like to do off topic a very little example of how that function works. And I give an example of the first variable and the second variable, for example, and I just print and say, okay, this is happening here. From this, it goes to here, or something like that. And I feel like it's extremely important for somebody that can't read and understand in one go somebody else's coding. So this would be artsy, in my opinion, just because it's a way of how to structure the code. I actually want to read this year book on how to code beautifully and properly in order for somebody else to be very, very, to be easy to be followed. Yeah. And the second part with data visualization, as I said, I like painting. And this is my painting part with within the notebooks. Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of the most important skills you can have in this domain is to write code that other people can read. I mean, you have code review, right? Like that's something that, I mean, you're probably going to get promoted if people can read your code, and every time they're merging something, it makes sense, right? Like to me, there's a huge value, a huge premium on that. If you're always writing code with the intention of other people seeing it, or that's the feeling you get, I think that's how you write high quality code. I know for my work, sometimes I know I'm the only person who's going to view the code, and it is so bad. I just like do it to get it done. I don't comment it well. And then I'm the one who looks back at it later and I'm like, oh man, why'd I do that? I have to like reinterpret all of this. And it's like, okay, like the trade-off between the time you're saving now and the time you're saving your future self or someone else. I mean, that might be an interesting way to look at it, is I'm always writing code for my future self. And so I should be kind to future Ken. That's a kind of a funny way to look at it. That would probably be effective. I would like to think I try to do a good job of taking care of my future self in terms of like my health and nutrition and those types of things. So why not with my code?
Your code. I remember I had so I did some coding, some functions for work, and then another colleague, she came and she was trying to kind of work upon what I already did, to kind of improve it. She was like, what did you do here? And I was like, okay. It's so embarrassing, you can't remember, but it was months ago, so how can I possibly? But I usually at least do a proper comment within some functions, being like, this function does this for me to remember.
Well, in theory, right, that is like a proper coding practice for each function where you use the, oh my God, I forgot what it's called. It's the triple quotes, right?
Yeah.
Within the function.
I have no idea how.
There has to be some special name, but I mean, that's something I like literally never do, and it's something I should do, right? Like whenever you define a function, you're supposed to like add metadata for what it does, but who knows? Oh, so a work in progress. New year, new me.
New year.
So something else I wanted to touch on. I mean, we're both Z by HP global ambassadors, and I think a lot of people don't really know what that means or what it entails. And I even have trouble articulating it, so I figured I would leave that responsibility up to you. But I'd love to hear more about that, your experience with that, and what that means to you.
I think this is by far the most frequent question I get on LinkedIn. And I usually, I don't know how to answer either. I think like being a Kaggle HP ambassador, it's first comes with such a great opportunity to work with people like you, for example, for people that are, thank you. For people that are grandmasters within multiple areas, we have people that are super experts in competitions. We have people that are super experts in data sets, in notebooks, in just creating content and just growing the community. So we are a very, very interesting cohort team, I would say team, that kind of adds value one to another through the different areas they would be experts at, let's say. And we get to do a bunch of cool stuff like testing out tools, like software tools, testing out gear, hardware, going to events, digital events. Maybe at some point Rona is gonna leave us alone and we can go to actual events. It would be so awesome to finally, like, when I started my data science journey, so it was September 2019, and I had 3 or 4 months in order to kind of start, and then this pandemic hit, and I feel like all my data science career has been online. Like before data analytics, it was, I know people like physically, but within data science, I feel everything was so digital that would be awesome to finally meet some of you in person. But we get to go to some events and get to talk, to interact, and everything we do, I feel it goes back to the community. So I wouldn't say we do something just for ourselves. We do something to create a better community and grow and help other people with better tools and better like techniques and gear in order for them to do what they love, which is data science.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think for me, something that was really special is, Z by HP, it seems like they're trying to consolidate a lot of people that know a lot in the space and get us to share information as effectively with each other and with the communities as possible. And to me, I think that that's a really cool initiative. They're also enabling us, as you mentioned, with some pretty cool technology. And, I don't look at myself or any of us as like super special, right? Like anyone can spend a lot of time on Kaggle, can have a presence and be as in part of a cohort or a program like this, right? That idea is fun and inspiring, and I'm grateful that I could have an opportunity like this as well. And I also think it's a really interesting and solid move on HP's part, because they've been really receptive with feedback that I've had. I mean, there are times that I've been critical of decisions or hardware or whatever it is, and they listen to me, which I think is really cool. And they've been using us for feedback and those types of things to make better products for data scientists. And I don't know what other companies are doing, but to me that was something that I'd be excited about working in, right? Like one of my goals is to make data science a better field, right? Is to make it more transparent, is to have more standardization around it so people can understand it better, because it's a little bit disjointed as we talk about like different definitions and those types of things. And a big part of that conversation is hardware, is like, oh, what technology should I use, or what is this and what is that? And it's cool to be part of those conversations as well. As you know, I have only so much power myself to make decisions or to describe things. Other companies have a lot more, big companies, you know, public companies have power to shape this in ways that I never could. And so partnering with them, working with them, in my mind, gives me more of a voice, more of a platform to hopefully influence the field for the better, which again is really, it's kind of special to me. I'm again grateful, super grateful for these opportunities. And to that point of giving back to the community, I've given away 2 ZBook studios, you know, $3,000, $4,000 laptops to the community. I'm giving away another one in a couple of weeks whenever I figure out how to ship it to India. And so, yeah, that to me is awesome. Like they're invested in, you know, making people or giving people better access to data science, which is so incredible.
It's actually amazing what you said, the fact that kind of giving the little man power to do something or to impact something bigger. We aren't little men, but frankly, next to a very, very extremely big company, we, as you said, we might not have the kind of impact that they would, but they are indeed so supportive, and like they have been fun. Like this is something I didn't expect it. I didn't, and they are so fun and so kind, and like you said, they actually like critical feedback, because this is what helps you grow, really. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, a fun opportunity. I'm probably going to talk to them about, you know, how to make the application process for those types of things more public and accessible. I think that that's something like, if people know that this is an option, and you know they have certain qualifications on Kaggle or on some of these other platforms, I think it's important, and it could be a good incentive, right? Like I look at this in a very small way of being like a sort of sponsored professional athlete, and that's so cool. Like in other domains, you can get that, right? Like Twitch streamers have sponsors, or they have people or partners or whatever it is. Like why not data scientists? Like isn't that cool? Isn't that exciting that maybe that's a possibility within a technical domain? Like I love that idea.
I love that too. It's like, yeah, you think only like movie stars and like said professional athletes and singers would have something like that, but you don't have to. You don't have to sing in order to have all these kind of possibilities. Like you really don't. Yeah.
Incredible stuff. So something I wanted to end on. We talked about this a little bit offline, and you know, you'd brought up a couple. There were some Romanian expressions that have funny translations. So the first time we spoke, you told me happy birthday, and that was because it was the new year. It was actually in fact my birthday. But so in Romania, apparently you say happy birthday at the new year. That's what the translation is.
To everybody.
Are there again, like very funny chance that we had that conversation on my birthday. Are there some other funny ones that being bilingual or possibly even multilingual that give you a little chuckle?
Actually, so because I grew up with this language, it doesn't sound funny. But when I went to my master's in England, we actually tried to translate to a British person some of our songs, and it was hilarious. And this is when I think we laughed for 1 hour trying to translate line by line songs, and we were 3 Romanians and 1 British guy, and he laughed, but I think he didn't really understand, because it's funny because we know the both ways, but he kind of had a blast too. So before this, I kind of asked some of my friends if they have funny things that we usually say. And the first thing that's actually extremely common, for example, in English, whenever you see an older woman that you are wanting to pay respect to, for example, a teacher, we say this even to our mothers, sometimes some of us, but a granny or something like that, and you salute, you say kind of, how do you politely say hello or hi? Like, do you have a...
No, pretty much it's only like hello or
hello
hi.
or
Maybe
greetings.
Hello is more greetings. Yeah, salutations.
Yeah, we say kiss your hand. So this was the first thing. We say kiss your hand, and it's funny. We also say, I don't know, at weddings we don't say congratulations, we say have a rock house, or
What does that mean?
have a very
like a stable home, like
stable, strong house, have a rock house. You like don't that. Say congratulations. I think that's bad luck.
I'm gonna say have a rock house to my my friend who's getting married in like a couple months. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, yes, to have a rock house. If you annoy me, I say you're taking me out of my watermelons. This is another. I don't know. We say I actually wrote them down because it's extremely hard to translate them. We say when it's easy, something very easy, we say flower at your ear, stuff like that. So yeah, we have we have like lots of we also say I was actually talking with some of my friends from India, and apparently they have the same parents as we do, because Romanian parents sound very, very similar to how the average Indian parent is, meaning that wherever you ask something, for example, when you're in school, when you ask something, they ask you back what you don't why are you going to school or something like that? You don't find this a school. And then you say, oh, I have a very big grade. And they say, oh, but this other friend, does he has a bigger grade or not? And if you say yes, they say something like, oh, you don't learn from me, or something like that. And they are very, very funny. Yeah.
That is incredible. Well, I think that's a really good way to end on a kind of pretty comical note. Andrada, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I always enjoy speaking to you, and I think everyone's gonna get a good kick out of this podcast and hopefully learn a lot.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.